Hello, hello. Welcome back. Thanks for being here. I hope each and every one of you listening to this is having an amazing day. I'm currently recording this on Mother's Day here. So I hope all of you had a great day, or you are, in fact, spending time with your moms. Make sure you tell them that you love them and spend lots and lots of time with them, because the older you get, you may unfortunately start running out of opportunities to do that. But here, let's not start getting all wishy-washy. I'm going to be starting today talking about, let's see here. I wanted to start talking about some of my favorite parts of the Halloween season, being the monsters, and a quick little run through of their origins. Now, I'm not going to be getting too far into detail. I just kind of wanted to cover some topics here of some of my favorite critters. Well, I mean, not all of them are critters, but I do want to at least start talking about some of my favorite spooky monsters. And that being said, let's start talking about vampires. They are the number one on my list here. Um, let's see, vampires in modern media. Let's see, we got Bram Stoker's Dracula. As far as films go, you can't beat the Gary Oldman film. That's probably one of the best depictions of the monster. Who didn't look at Gary Oldman when they were younger and go, "What the hell?" Like, why couldn't someone like that come after me? But okay, moving on here, we have so some of the lore that I have stumbled on, or some of the backdrop for the monster, dates back to the Mesopotamian era, and a lot of that is in the quote-unquote Fertile Crescent. Now, a lot of lore regarding these monsters has definitely changed over time, because that the Mesopotamian era was a long time ago, and I'm not necessarily going to get into Vlad Tepes, whom was the actual historical Dracula, but you see here, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novelization, not necessarily the 90s Keanu Reeves movie, but Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novelization, the book, that is what really pushed our modern associations that we have with vampires into the limelight, especially with them becoming a cultural Halloween icon. Here, due to the novel depicting, or one of the first depictions of Dracula, or vampires in general, as a pale, unearthly, charismatic, and, to say seductive is certainly subjective based on which interpretation of vampires you're looking at. If we're going to start talking Interview with a Vampire, then by golly, I do believe seductive is putting it lightly. But with the release of the 1931 blockbuster of the one and only Bela Lugosi's legendary performance as the monster, around that time in the 1930s is when trick-or-treating, Halloween, when it was all really starting to come together as a cultural phenomenon. We had the holiday, but in the late late 20s through the 30s, especially up to the 40s. That's when like trick or treating really started becoming part of our regular routine. People were dressing up in costumes and with the depictions of the legendary Universal monster films. That really started, making the costumes and the cultural representations of these creatures or monsters' origins becoming what we have so popularized and become familiar with nowadays. And I mean, without any, I don't know about any of you listening, but without any of these monsters, I would not be the person that I am today. So now I'm pretty sure that my first exposure to the creatures or the creature was definitely the 1931 Dracula. I was already kind of gushing over that a little bit, but if you go back and you watch the film, um, it's eye candy. It's a pure treat. You know, movies today, they just I feel like a lot of them, a lot of the newer ones that come out, they don't quite capture the magic, of the atmosphere or the what's the word I'm looking for here? The ambience, if you will. So, like, there's nothing wrong with action blockbusters, Like, I just feel like so many times there's been a dozen and one reboots to try to retell the story of Dracula, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to make something your own. Not every story of vampirism needs to be told through the eyes of Bram Stoker. Um, Even though that's one of my absolute favorite because I mean again without that legendary interpretation of the story of Dracula, things would never have gotten the way they are today with vampirism. Like we just had Nosferatu, which I definitely liked. Don't get me wrong. Uh, I'll save all of that for another episode, another time. But so and also as far as like video games go regarding the topic of vampires, um, I think one of my absolute favorites ever, which doesn't get enough love, is the Blood Omen series, the Legacy of Kain series. I remember thinking that vampires were the coolest fucking thing, especially after having played through those games in the late '90s and the early 2000s. Just Kain, Raziel, like I just thought they were the coolest things, and it was such a very very different take on the vampires. Like it wasn't your typical run of the mill bleh, like. But I also going back to films, I really enjoyed the underworld movies growing up. I definitely liked the whole vampires versus werewolves and like definitely over the top action, like popcorn munching. But I always had a bunch of fun with it. Same with Van Helsing. Van Helsing was a lot of fun. I remember that movie just blew my mind when I first saw it. That was absolutely something. Just the visuals were incredible, and just the topics, like being all the different like universal style monsters. You had Frankenstein, you had werewolves, you had vampires, banshees. Like it's like even the atmosphere. That's what I live for. Like it's like how did I skip over Castlevania? Castlevania is absolutely one of my favorite game series of all time. I still have Symphony of the Night. I go back to it periodically. I actually have it on my Android phone, so I have it with me everywhere. And I mean that game in and of itself is one of the best Metroidvanias ever. So if you have not given it a shot, I highly recommend it. It's a awesome action RPG. I grew up playing it. It had come out on the PlayStation 1, and I've pretty much played through it in every different stage of my life. So I cannot recommend that enough. I realize I'm just kind of rambling here, but that's kind of what this whole thing is for, and I'm grateful that you're here with me, hanging out, and I'm not sure what you're doing right now, whether you're just you're trying to sleep, you're out and about, you're working, you're jogging, you're at the gym flexing, but you know, whatever it is that you are doing, and you are having me come with you, you know, I'm super grateful. The next couple of episodes are going to be very similar to this. My next one, I'm going to be covering some other monsters. You'll just have to wait and see what they are. But I'm looking forward to it. Now, if you haven't also read the Anne Rice vampire books, do yourself a favor and go for it. Like, they are wonderful. The movies, I can't say the same for. Now, Interview with the Vampire itself, like the film, phenomenal. Absolutely incredible. Perfect to watch it around Halloween. And, however, when if you already know, then you're laughing with me. The sequel there kind of ruins and you know, this is just my opinion. If you love it, you love it. That is totally fine. Just ignore me. But the second one there, Queen of the Damned. Oh boy, where to begin? That destroys the second and the third book, and it makes the entire tale a nu metal music video. And mind you, there's nothing wrong with nu metal. If you were alive and old enough in the late 90s and the early 2000s, you nu metal is pretty much the thing that was at the time. Like, I still remember when Carson Daly was on MTV looking all edgy, painting like two of his nails and talking about Limp Bizkit and Korn and Marilyn Manson, Linkin Park. Like, oh my goodness. And I can't even believe I'm about to end the episode talking about nu metal. But if we're talking about vampires and, you know, you were a kid in the 90s, nu metal definitely got worked in there. So if you haven't seen Queen of the Damned and you're curious about what it is I'm talking about or rambling about, do yourself a favor or disservice, depending on how you end up interpreting it. But give it a shot. It's not going to bite. The soundtrack is actually pretty good. But yeah, no, it's got that late 90s charm to it. So thanks for joining me today on my fun house. Talking about the vampires in, I guess, modern media, and how they became a cultural phenomenon back in the 30s. So next time we are going to talk a little more about where monsters came into play in the 30s and the 40s. But all right, I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me, and take care.